One thing I've learned, if you don't hold their feet to the fire, everybody gets burned.
Hold on. Before you start waving around that freedom of speech thing, when you're in a crowded movie theater and you scream fire, you better be able to smell smoke. You come on this radio show and you start saying incandescent things like that, you better have more behind you, pal, than just your thumb. I've been listening to talk radio for years, and one thing I just can't stand is when the host has to, push his way on the people, beat the callers into his way of thinking, extending his ego. Or when the callers call in and say something so outrageous and the host lets it go unchallenged. The sign you're on the road to truth is the lack of contradiction. You want to find truth, you just don't simply believe somebody because of their authority or their degree, or you listen to what they say, you test it against reality, and you hold their feet to the fire.
All right, we are back and we're live. Feet to the fire. I'm your host, James Yanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. How are you guys all doing? I tell you, I got a lot done in my room studio. I know this is personal stuff, but it's really good. I got a new Linux machine set up. Very inexpensive system, but it's very fast, and weaning my ways off of Windows 7. Currently on it, broadcasting. All I could do is say a prayer before I go online. Please don't crash. Hopefully that'll be gone with Linux. I've been working on another old MacBook Pro that I got from my sister. A lot of people turned them in, recycled them. It's an older one, but the Linux works on it. I got a lot of practice in on it. Anyway, all governments are evil. Well, what's going on in the world here is that you have a barrage. We started out with Russia and Ukraine, a barrage of propaganda of who's got the high side, who's doing the best. And billions have went into Ukraine from the West. And prior to this war, Ukraine was a corrupt nation, all news sources reporting on it. But all of a sudden they turn good because it's against Russia and so on. Now we have Israel and Gaza, of course, and Palestinians / Hamas / Hezbollah. It's because of the attacks and the murders of the innocent that outraged everyone to allow this to continue. I have no judgment. I'm not trying to say any one of them is good. They're all bad. It's all about degrees. Governments throughout all of history. I mean, what people should do is get yourself a good overview of history. I have a book. If I can remember, I'll put the link. It's actually it's an audio book, but it's out in paper. I think I might get it for reference, where the author went through since the beginning of all written history, a little bit of pre-written history, but starting there, and followed all the way through up until I think it's after the Crusades. I don't remember exactly where it ends. It's 3 volumes. It's each one is 50 hours. It's listening is giant. But what the consistent message through the whole time is, there's a guy, king, gets together, talks about how other people support him. He ends up going and kicking butt, stealing, raping, killing, until he dies of old age or disease, or his sons kill him and take over for him. Then the sons come along, kill each other, trying to get the king. And this is what's going on forever. And it goes through all cultures, all religions, all throughout all of history. Huge bloody battles are obviously, in the Crusades, right? We're going to go back Israel from the pagan, Muslims, right? Well, then the Crusades worked their way into fighting Christians, then sect fighting sect. So you have Christian card-carrying banner Christians who are in this particular group who I think that the argument was about the nature of Christ. Was it two natures in one or just one nature manifesting in two? No, I'm not kidding you. People died because of that. Now, I realized that particular issue wasn't really was the war. It was power. It's always about power. I want your stuff. You want my stuff. I'm going to keep you from taking my stuff. I'm going to take your stuff. Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to take your stuff. And sometimes it wasn't even taking the stuff. It was just like, oh, yeah? You think you don't have to be, you're going to break away from my kingship? I'm going to go in there and just destroy you. And city after city, ruins after ruins, it's been brutalized, where they killed everybody in the city and piled them in the streets, burned the houses, burnt down, knocked down buildings, and left. And that city sat for hundreds of years with piles of bleached bones that people traveling through the area would go see these pile of bones. This was Christians, mind you. Well, obviously they weren't Christians in terms of Jesus Christ, but this was the labels they took. And this is what's going on now, obviously, in Gaza and Israel. And both sides are justified. Both sides have horrific deeds done by each other. Of course, Israel's more organized in terms of materially and propaganda information out, and the other ones are less. And neither one of them is right. I'm not going to go in that. I'm not going to go down. I'm not going to get sucked down in that road and say, you got to take a choice. Republicans or Democrats. Israel or Gaza. Russia or China. Black or white. I'm not going down that road, because that's the road for destruction. The destruction is these guys over there are causing all the problems. So we can just get rid of those guys over there. Everything will be fine. Without looking to these guys over here and all the troubles that they have. I mean, there's no good governments. No, not one. There's only degrees of evil. Well, yeah, with the United States. What about the United States? Do we need to see what's happened in the last years with lockdowns and whatnots, and how it's hurt their own people for political purposes? Or, at least taking advantage of the situation politically, if not causing it. There's no good anywhere. And I remember I read the Bible a lot. I listened to it, Bible on tape. It literally was on tape at the time, cassettes, 1 million times, over and over again. I drove years after years. And some of the stuff just sticks in there, and so it'll come to mind. And one of the things that came to mind when I said that, no governments are good, no, not one, I remember when a quote, righteous man came up to Jesus and said, what do I, good master, what do I need to go get the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus said to him, why do you call me good? There's no good but God. And, of course, pastors, jump into handsprings around that one because, what, Jesus is perfect. He didn't mean himself, and they got to try to explain it. Don't go down those roads. I just look at it and said, Jesus was telling there's no good but God. There isn't. There's no religion that's good. All right? There's only degrees of bad. What? What do you mean, Christians? What about Baptists? What about Catholics? No. Wherever you have power will absolutely corrupt whatever it's in. In any kind of religion, even a church by itself, you're going to get the guy running the church be getting corrupt and doing. There's independent Baptist church around me here that went down because the preacher or his son is fooling around with the people, with the young ladies. The power is the thing that does it. So that when you seek power, you will become evil and corrupt. Now, I'm sure throughout time, there have been people who have managed to keep the degrees very down, very low, but everywhere around here are innocent or dying. People are lying. People are guilty who are being innocent. They're stealing from other people. They're justifying their taking from others. They're justifying their actions. They're justifying their angers. They're justifying their crimes. They're justifying their murders. Whether it be on a battlefield, a sanctioned official battlefield, or on the streets of a city. So, whenever you're presented with a side which is like, well, this is the good side, this is the bad side. No, all people, when there's a divorce, there is guilt on both sides. Now, there may be one side has way more degree. The other person might be as guilty for simple as like, you should never have married the knucklehead. So, there's a problem in your personhood that you would be attracted to or be with this other person. You see what I mean? So let's start arguing about the bad and start focusing on what does it take to be good. And that's what enters the teachings of Jesus. You don't even have to get a whole big theological overview of things. You just follow what he is saying, and you look at, especially at the Sermon on the Mount. If like everything else disappeared, all written words disappeared, and the Sermon on the Mount was the only thing that survived, it would do you well. So that's why I've been turning away from the videos. One thing I can watch this stuff like on the outside, watching the process, and all of a sudden on YouTube, out of nowhere, I should have wrote the names down. There's got to be at least 10 that come up in your feed with with coverage, daily coverage, of what's going on in the Gaza-Israel war. And all of them are done by high-quality computer narration. I don't know if AI is thrown around a lot, just computer narration. There's not a person, it's not an actual person doing their channel, it's not a reporter talking about it. It is written down, and it is read with very high-quality voices. The only way a lot of times you can tell is when they say names. When Netanyahu's is a great name, whenever that comes out, it gets all, the computers can't say that right. When you get, especially a lot of the foreign names. And there's a bunch of them, and they're all talking about covering the war from how Israel tracked here and they attacked here and what Israel did there. So it's going to be from an Israel side. And this is just noticing this. There's at least 10 of them. There's probably 20, 30, but I'm saying they're getting up in my feed out of nowhere. I don't like them. I haven't followed them or whatever the word is, the check mark. They're just there. So the propaganda has been put in there. Now, if you get into a more of a liberal slanted media, they're talking a lot about Palestinians and what they're going through. And, it's another thing I'm an observer. I observe things. And certain things stick out and go like, that's weird. There's a contradiction here, or this, there's someone here. So one of the contradictions I see is the liberal groups have a high percentage of American Jews are in liberal camp, the Democrat or liberal camp, progressive camp. Yet, in Israel, you have the percentage of people are more conservative. Now, I know that they've had battles over there, so it's not that simple. But when you have a war and you have your home country at war, the American Jew will often side against Israel while also being liberal on the side. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. If you're going to have blood ties, right? And this is what's happening with Palestinians around all the protests. They're all protesting Palestinian, and it's all based, a lot of that's based on their blood ties, ethnicity and whatnot. And it's tearing everything apart. Whatever's going on in Gaza, and whoever's to blame, and there's plenty of blame to go around, what has that got to do with somebody blocking traffic in the United States and kicking in cars and calling and yelling people and stuff like that? What has that got to do with anything? Is that guy in the car going, oh, you know what? I didn't realize. You know what? I'm going to go do something about that. It's ludicrous. All it is an excuse. It's this anger that's bubbling all over this world. And, of course, we all know that's coming from Satan. on all sides. It's just bubbling up, looking for an excuse to come out and do anything. And, of course, there's plenty of things happening to facilitate those excuses and that action with wars. And I mean, look at how they're going after Trump. I'm not even talking about Trump like a hero or not. It's like they're making up stuff. They're taking laws that have never been used to try and get him, and they got so many counts against him that something's going to stick after all these years of trying to get him. Why? Is it just because they don't like him? I don't think so. I think because he's not in the system. You can take people who are, look at the Republican Party. It's a good example of it. You got people who are playing ball with this complete destruction of the United States economically, morally, physically, infrastructurally. It's all, and they're taking part of it because but they're going to be the good cop, and the Democrats or the liberals or progressives will be a bad cop, but they're just a lesser shade of evil than they are. And some of them are quite bright in their darkness, if you will. So it's like that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing all this stuff going around and talking about it, and I'm going like it's a distraction from the destruction of the Western civilization. You have the riots are now coming out and showing all of a sudden you got like, hey, wait a minute, there's too many immigrants coming to New York. We got to stop that. Well, you're a sanctuary state. You put a sign out there and said, hey, you're a sanctuary state here. Come to us. So that when they come in the border in Texas goes, all right, there you go. Chicago, here you go, sanctuary city, sanctuary state, Chicago, Illinois, and New York. There you go. Hey, you're the sanctuary. Here he goes. Oh, wait a minute. Because it's not done sincerely. It's done as to promote the flood of low-income, low-skill workers, and inside there are people who are in Dyer Street, but in there they have all of the army that they're going to use internally. Just wait for the terrorist stuff to start popping up here. So I mean, our government is evil. Our government's evil. Well, it's the best out there. Well, if it is, some of them are obviously tyrannical. China, obviously tyrannical, right? Russia is being one of the more better of them, of the governments at this point, after all the years of growing up of how evil it was. And it was evil. And again, all of it is still evil. Don't get sucked down that hole. Don't get sucked into defending the Palestinians because you can do nothing for the Palestinians. Don't defend Israel. You can't do nothing for Israel. The government is doing all they're doing on their own, out of your hands. Oh, we can protest. Yeah. What they have now is the government has a ready-made group to go along with what they want to go after you when you protest. And so when you have a protest, all of a sudden somebody gets hurt or killed, and all of a sudden they start rounding up people like a vacuum. They just suck everybody in. And somehow a lot of people don't qualify for this cashless bail. How about cashless bail for the January 6th people? No, cashless bail for that. No. It's a criminal. He comes and robs you. You call the police, you get him, they take him away, and he comes back and finishes the job. That's okay, because these are being used by our government. Our evil government are using these people as an army against us, the people who are left here with a constitutional, moral, or a Christian morality or what have you. The real kind that Jesus taught, not some phony baloney stuff. I'm telling you, get a good book on history and just go through it all. It's amazing. It's just that's all it is. Now, during that time, the little people who don't make the history books, they're out there trying to stay alive, doing the actual work, propping up all these war machines that are killing and doing all this stuff. So it's like, who's the crazy people? We are facilitating all of this. So, I mean, what are you going to do? There's people who write on my on the social media stuff where I talk about stuff, and they say, well, we got to wake up. America's got to wake up, do something. And I ask, I wasn't trying to be mad or nasty or something, but do what? I haven't heard one single suggestion other than stuff like wake up, you got to get done, you got to get. What? What are you going to do? You going to take to the streets? There's already an army waiting to meet you. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do it then, but this is what's happening. There is nothing to do. It's get yourself right with God, follow the principles of Jesus to get through whatever's coming. And however it comes, make sure you live the proper life, because it's not about living, it's about how you lived. It's not about dying, it's about whether you die, it's about how you live. So this is, I say these things and I look, I'm not a big stats person. I mean, I don't have 100,000 people listening. It's like 1900, and that number has been there for years, so I don't think that number counts, especially from the views. Numbers go down when I talk about this stuff. And I go, you know what? I don't like to talk about it, but if I'm going to be asked what I see that should be said, I'm not going to keep saying things that other people have said and go over the same thing and tag team with other guys and, and pick a side and go for it. I'm going to give my visuals on it. And I always, one of my favorites is Socrates. And because Socrates, people would talk about stuff and he'd find the things wrong with it. And they would get so mad at him, eventually they killed him. They made him drink poison, which he agreed with the laws and the rules. He was tried and he drank it. But they get pissed at him because they say, okay, so what's the answer then, wise guy? You teared apart my thing, so what's the answer? He's like, I don't know the answer. I just know that's not the answer. And I'm kind of in that shoe here with this. I don't want to compare myself to Socrates, but I'm in that mold where I'm going like, this is wrong, that's wrong. No, this isn't going to work, that's not going to work. And I go, all right, so what do we do? I don't got an answer. There is nothing I could do other than stay true to yourself, to God, to your family. Don't go down the dark road. Don't let anger and hate get to you. We're all going to die eventually, so let's live properly, whatever that time is. The goal is not to live long. It's to live well. And it's not to live well in a material sense. It's to live well in a spiritual sense. I mean, that's all I got. Well, that's not an answer. Well, it is an answer. It's an answer for you and your soul going into a temporary learning place that we're in. I mean, it may be 60, 70, 80 years. That's still small compared to eternity. To go to the next levels. I don't want to go to the next level and learn how bad I was. I know I'm bad. I know no one's good but God. I got that. This is why you can't be haughty. You can't be self-righteous because there is none good but God. But God being a merciful person, God loving you, wants to help to make you the best you can be, is always there to turn around and help. That's what I'm counting on in this area. Well, what if there isn't a God? Then we got nothing. Okay, so it's not like the devil is an answer just in case there's no God, or evil is a way to live in case there's no, there's no answer. All governments are evil because they will throw their own citizens under the bus if it means for them to keep themselves viable and powerful. They've been doing it for centuries. Even before they had buses, they were throwing people under them because the government and the people in it, number one. And look at the people in the government. They'll throw each other under the bus to make sure they do it. It's like a wrestling. They had a thing years ago. What did they call it? It's a big crazy match. Like 100 guys go in the ring. And the whole goal is to throw the last guy in the ring wins, right? So they're throwing each other out. This is what happens when it comes down to power. The people in the power will tolerate people around them that as long as they serve them. Hey, if it comes to him or me, they're out of there. And when it comes to us people under the government, we're nothing. Drafts, taxes, inflation, the taking of the money and using not properly protecting us with borders and I said the money things and the banks. The banks are going. People laugh about that. The banks are going to go. Come on. There's FDIC. Well, as far as I remember this, now I'm going to say numbers, and the numbers may be off, but the point I'm making isn't. The percentages isn't. there's something like $1 trillion in savings. Maybe give or take a few billion, 100 billion. I don't know, But there's only 1 billion something, maybe 2 billion in FDIC funds. So who do you, if there's a big crash, who do you think's going to get the money? The Rockefeller or you? And then once that money's gone, and the laws have been changed under Clinton, I think it was. The laws have been changed so that when you put your money in a bank, you're giving the bank an unsecured loan to use your money. Unsecured, meaning like when they go like, we don't got any. Well, okay, we got FDIC. We don't got any. Guess what? You don't got any. This is why in these times people talk about gold and whatnot. And I noticed a lot of talk shows and they got gold, this and that. But gold does, of all the things, gold like that will last through a catastrophe. It won't necessarily make you money. It's not meant to be a money maker. It's meant to preserve the value that you have. So if you were to turn around and you took, I did this, I should have wrote this down. But in 1957, I was watching Perry Mason, and I noticed some of these monies that people were killing people for, I thought were pretty low. But then when I started thinking about it in terms of the buying power during that time, that made like $10,000 was like $1 million or something. So if you were to take the money back in the 70s, it was $35 an ounce for gold. And if you bought gold, if you took $35, a month or even a year, and you bought gold, now gold is starting to go up now. It's $2,000. So first off, that $35 that value has been saved. But it's even better, or worse, however you want to look at it, is that with the inflation rate alone is not all that there is. The prices went up, the buying powers went down even so. So that gold has more buying power. If it was just inflation, it still is way higher. So, of course, now it's $2,000 an ounce. Yeah, just give me an ounce of gold. Here's $2,000, right? I can't do that now. But people have been talking about it, and I wish I would have done something when I never really could have. I had a Bitcoin. I bought a Bitcoin for a little over $1,000. It went up to almost $30,000 I had in Bitcoins. Didn't sell it. Went down to $4,000. Now I sold it. I still made a couple grand, and then it goes up to even higher, $60,000. So anyway, the point being is that now's the time to get real. Get yourself real. If you want to buy food, store food, it's not necessarily mean that when things crash, it's going to be crashed for 4 years, 10 years. I mean, it might be a few weeks and so forth. But you got to get ready for it. Get ready and in prayer and have friends and connections, because the bad guys aren't going to go like, oh man, here's the good guys across the street and they saved things and they got food and they got a generator and all that. I don't have anything. Oh, well, that's what I deserve. No. They're going to be getting together to come get you. So this is where God comes in one, and then preparation, food, protection, and whatnot. Now, now that everybody's turned off already, I wanted to mention something about Trump. It's amazing. He's still there, still punching in, still kicking back, and they're losing this appeal and that appeal, and his gag is being thrown out and all this stuff. And I'm going like, man, I'm telling you, this guy is like, it seems like he's indestructible. And I don't know with the elections and all that. I don't have faith in the electrical integrity. And now that people are voting ahead of time more readily, you have that, ability. And there's so much, people say, there's no fraud. There's so much of it that has been released, but you don't get to see it on mainstream aspects. And then you got a lot of people exaggerating. And then when you have people who are starting the flame, saying like, yeah, we got the Kraken and all that, pleading guilty, admitting that they had wrong information. It kind of makes it rough, but then there's still Trump punching through there. So I don't know. Well, anyway, I'm going to go. I'm doing a lot of work here. I only have 1 day to work in here because of my schedule and all that. And that's just the way it is. And so I've done a whole lot in the studio. I should have taken a picture before and then have after, but I was too embarrassed by the before. I literally have like 2 square feet on my desk to do stuff, and it's piled everywhere. But I've got the desk wiped off pretty good now. And now that I've started with my little computer, my little handheld, I can stick it in my pocket, Linux computer. I'm and there's Linux software to do what I'm doing, and video and whatnot. So I'm really kind of getting reinvigorated. And so I want to take time each week to say something, because there's people who want me to say stuff and listen to me. And so, hey, if people are, I'm going to keep giving my honest feelings, my honest evaluation. What I see is important and what's coming. And deception is beyond amazement. Anyway, one of the things I do watch is Friends. I never watched it when it was on TV. And there is a lot of programming in there and stuff, free sex and all that, which is not good. But by today's standards, it's gotten so it's not as shocking. But the comedy and all this stuff is pretty good in it. And I just heard yesterday that Matthew Perry died. Now, he had a big drug problem. He got through it. He wrote a book. I saw him talking about how he's gotten through all these things, and now he's dead. And the last picture that somebody I saw posted was him touting a T-shirt that said, what is it? What's that line? Could I be more vaccinated? And 54, he's now dead. So, and the problem is he's got a lot of damage I'm sure he's done to his body over the years. I mean, he was taking like some ridiculous, like 100 Vicodin or something a day. I don't even know how he survived, right? But that's one of the things is that when there's something else that could have done it, and other things that might have done it don't get looked at. And I'm cryptic here because another thing about YouTube is they've been deleting my YouTube videos 2, 3, 4, and 5 years ago. And the magic thing that they do is that if you say anything against the WHO, that's out. And it's like, wait, the most precious thing you can have is your own body and your health. I mean, look at what they're doing with pro-choice. My body, my care of my body is so important that I can kill a child as they're coming out of me. But, if you don't do what you're told and certain things, then... So anyway, I'm going to let you go with that, and God bless you all, and hang in there. I mean, we're going to make it through to the other side, because that's what we're looking for from birth. Our coming here and having fun is not what life is. Coming here and making it rich and retiring and seeing that's not it. It's getting yourself morally ready for the next level. Get yourself aligned with it. I like using the idea of resonating. I mean, in the music and stuff, but when you could take tuning forks, and if they're tuned a certain way, when you strike, they can actually feed off each other. And if one is dissonant, it will actually help the other one stop vibrating more faster, because they're coming at energy is canceling each other out. This is what we're looking to do. You want to resonate with the positive good, and I'm telling you that Jesus is the guy who laid it out. So anyway, all right, I'm going to go. God bless you all, and I will see you next time. And wish me well on doing here. So far, I'm working. Work slow, but I'm still working. So God bless God for how He's taking care of all this. And we will see you next time. Beat the fire.
Retell your timeless truths. Oh, it's your word.
Feet to Fire is a production of IPS Media Works on the OnSync radio network of stations.